Okay, I just want to say sorry in advance for how noisy my chair is going to be. I'm also sorry for my shaggy appearance. I haven't had much time to take a shower today. And I also want to say sorry in advance for my less than peppy attitude. Um, you could probably put two and two together as to why I'm feeling the way that I do, considering the day that I'm recording this. Um, I'll just throw this on the screen right there. And if you disagree with that, please take your viewership elsewhere. I'm in no mood to debate or to do any of that shit. I'm not. I don't care if that gets me a downvote. I don't fucking care. All right. Certain viewers, I know where you stand, so now you know where I stand. Okay. Okay. All right. Power Rangers. So if you watched my last video, you'll know I announced that before I bring you my reactions to History of Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, I'm gonna jump ahead about 20 years or so with my reactions to History of Power Rangers Dino Fury. I know my original plan for these was to go through every single History of Power Rangers from Mighty Morphin to Time Force, but I decided to do this in between the back half of these planned videos of mine. And I've actually gotten some messages from people on social media asking why I'm doing this. What about all the other seasons that came out in between, like all the stuff in the Disney era and what have you? Well, there's a story behind that, and I figured it's probably best to put that in a separate video as opposed to have that be the 20-minute prologue to this. So yeah, you're welcome, I guess. I stopped watching Power Rangers in 2005. Not because I didn't like SPD, but because my interest was leaning more towards other things like superheroes, and I started getting more and more into the Marvel and DC universes, which, let's face it, that hasn't really stopped since then. Years go by, and it was in 2012 when I saw online that viral footage from Japan of all the Power Ranger teams up to that point together fighting a huge army of robots. I was like, whoa, I have got to check that out. I then found out it would be part of their upcoming 2013 season Megaforce, so I started watching Megaforce when that started. At the time, the show had moved to Nickelodeon 2 years prior, so I was curious whether or not it would feel different, even with Saban back to running it again. So I'd follow the season as it went on, and ultimately I wasn't impressed. Clearly, they were trying to recapture the same feel as the original Mighty Morphin days, but to me it just felt stale and boring, especially when you compare it to other action-oriented shows made around the same time that were aimed at kids. Shows like The Legend of Korra, Young Justice, and even Star Wars The Clone Wars. But hey, at least I still had that big battle to look forward to, right? Right? By the time it got to the end of Super Megaforce, what a name, I was feeling burnt out, and from what I can tell from the more dedicated fans of PR, it seems that I wasn't the only one. So I didn't even bother with all the other seasons that came afterwards. I moved on again. Cut to early 2022, the franchise was now in the hands of Hasbro, and I was putting together the first batch of these History of Power Rangers reaction videos. I read something online about this new iteration of the show called Dino Fury, and that there was one aspect to it that was a major first for the show. Once I heard about that, I decided to give Dino Fury a shot, and I watched it. And I liked what I saw. I thought it was really good. It genuinely took me by surprise. Now, as I mentioned before, the plan for this was to go from Mighty Morphin Season 1 up to Time Force. That was always going to be the end goal. And regarding all the seasons that came out in between Time Force and this, I gotta come clean with you all. I actually did watch some of the HOPR videos on some of these, which pretty much disqualifies them from being part of this little experiment of mine. However, like I mentioned before, in the 2-year gap between this and this, full-length episodes of every PR season from 1993 to, at the time of this recording, 2016, have all been uploaded to the official Power Rangers YouTube channel. And like I said before, I do appreciate that they did this because now it makes those seasons more accessible to watch than ever before. Of course, the DVD sets from Shout Factory are still available, which is obviously great. Always got to give Shout Factory some love. I'm just saying that having the opportunity to watch these seasons before deciding to buy the DVDs, like, that just makes more sense to me. You know, I appreciate that it's now online as well as on physical media. Like, it's nice to have those options. But it's thanks to this that I did get to watch each of those seasons that I missed. Some of them are on Netflix too, which is also helpful. I watched enough of each one to properly formulate an opinion on them, so for the sake of completion, here are my thoughts on every season of Power Rangers from 2002 to 2020, including the ones that I have watched prior to 2023. Starting with Wild Force.
Alright. I said, alright.
Writers Judd Lin and Jackie Marchand left Power Rangers behind once production on Time Force ended. The reason for this being that producer Jonathan Zacher kept pressuring them to have Time Force adhere much closer to its original Sentai. More on that when we get there. And their absence was very much felt in my opinion. From what I've heard about the Sentai this came from, Gal Ranger, they basically took all the story elements from that and just Americanized them. What we got ultimately was fine, I guess, but it just pales in comparison to what came before it. No wonder the best episodes were Forever Red and both parts of Reinforcements from the Future. Those were the only episodes that had nothing to do with the Sentai at all. That theme song still slaps like a motherfucker though. Like, seriously. Ninja Storm.
That was a bit rich, but okay.
The proper beginning of the Disney era, and I actually was there for it. I watched the season all the way through when it came out. I bought all the toys. It was great. But upon rewatch, it's fine, I guess. I thought it was at least more entertaining than Wild Force, but a little too comedic for its own good. And the main villain, Lothar, was just a complete dud for me. The best episodes, though, were parts 1 and 2 of the Samurai's journey. I remember liking those episodes a lot when I was a kid, and they still hold up. By the way, part 1, written by Jackie Marchand, who came back for the season, thank God. Part 3 felt unnecessary, though. It should have been a separate episode altogether, as making it the final part in that story, it just made the whole thing peter out. But parts 1 and 2, still rock solid. Dino Thunder.
Now that's more like it, Mr. Wayne.
There's literally nothing I can say about it that hasn't been said already. It's great, of course it's great. And not just because of Tommy's return, although that was a big part of it for me personally. SPD!
Really good.
I knew this was a big fan favorite, and I get now why that is. Like, it is just as good as people say it is. It's very, very good. I really enjoyed it a lot. I am aware that this was the beginning of what fans call the Kalish era of PR, named after Bruce Kalish, the new executive producer with the season. And I'm aware of just how divisive it is. I mean, let me tell you, the pyrotechnics department must have been really working overtime those couple of years, I swear to God. I'll just say that all the aspects in this that worked, I'm crediting to Greg Aranowitz. I saw an interview with him where he said that he wanted to shake up the formula and try new things, and I think it worked for the most part. He also did a lot of the makeup design for the season as well, so shout out to him. It's a shame he only did the one season because just like Lin and Marchand not being there for Wild Force, his absence in the next season was definitely felt. Mystic Force.
Alright. I said, alright.
This season was pretty forgettable for me. I thought the aesthetics were neat, and I remember there was one ranger who wanted to be a filmmaker, but aside from that, I was bored most of the time. Like, you could put a gun to my head and be like, if you don't tell me what the story for Mystic Force was, I'll shoot! And my response would be, well, shoot. Operation Overdrive.
I don't like it very much.
This was sensory overload for 32 episodes straight. I am not even joking. Like, oh my god, this was bad. This was really, really bad. And don't get me started on Once a Ranger. Don't even get me started on that shit. Oh, fuck me. Jungle Fury.
That was a bit rich, but okay.
Again, like Mystic Force, it'd be tough for me to like fully recollect what the overall story for it was, but I remember liking it at least. You know, I thought it was better than Overdrive, that's for sure. Like, it was at least way better than that. Which might not be saying much, but whatever. RPM.
Now that's more like it, Mr. Wayne.
I really liked this one, folks. Like, Disney seriously did this one dirty. The meta jokes were funny, the characters were really fleshed out, and the Dr. K episode, wow. The fans weren't kidding when many of them consider that to be one of the best, if not the best episode of PR of all time. It's a shame that the original head writer of the season, Eddie Guzalian, was fired almost halfway through, because I could tell whatever his original plans were basically abandoned in favor of something more traditional thanks to the return of Judd Lin. Now don't get me wrong, I love Judd Lin, my man, that's my dude, my heart goes out to Judd Lin, okay? I'm just saying that the back half of RPM felt like him just recycling what he did within space. And it's not that it didn't work, it was still fine, it just felt inconsistent with what had been established in the first half. But that said, it was still a very good season, and at the very least, a solid note for the Disney era of Power Rangers to end on. This never happened, and we can all just move on with our lives knowing that it never fucking happened. Samurai and Super Samurai.
And actually, that wasn't very nice. It was horrible.
The beginning of the Neo-Saban era, or the Nickelodeon era, depending on who you ask. And oof. Big oof. Jonathan Zacher returned, and he was back on his bullshit again, just like with Wild Force. But instead of just adapting the Sentai this came from, Shinkenger, to a Western audience, they actually went a step further than that. They directly translated the original Japanese scripts into English, and the end result just really did not work for me at all. Look, I'm sorry, I know that there are people who like these two seasons, and that's fine, but it just didn't work for me. Now look, I'll be nice. These were the first PR seasons to be fully produced in HD, and it definitely looks good, that's for sure, it really does. It was also great to see Paul Schreier back as Bulk. As clunky as many of the comedic subplots were, he's the kind of comic performer that can do a lot with nothing, and he came out of this clean in my opinion. But other than those two aspects, yeah, this was not a good first outing for the Neo-Saban era. This didn't work for me, sorry. Megaforce.
I don't like it very much.
I already gave you my opinion on it, but believe me when I say, it only got worse with age. Just, you're gonna have to trust me on this one. Super Megaforce. What a name.
Oh no, this is horrible!
Again, I've already said my piece on it, but what a load of wasted potential this was. Oh my god. Like, to me, this is the textbook example of how not to celebrate the history of a long-running show. And that finale, oh my god, that finale.
What were they thinking?
Dino Charge.
And everything was lovely once again. Wonderful.
Thank God Judd Lin came back, and what we got was, I'd say, pretty decent overall. Yeah, I thought it was decent. I liked Sledge, I liked the villain Sledge, I liked his design, I liked his voice actor, I thought all that was good. Dino Supercharge.
That was a bit rich, but okay.
Heckle was a fun villain though. He's basically Tom Hiddleston's Loki, but for Power Rangers. Hell, that ends up being even more true years later, but more on that when we get there. Also, 10 Rangers, for me, is too many to keep track of. The way it all ended was certainly a choice. especially when one stops for a second to really think about the ramifications of what happened. Like, if this didn't happen, then does that mean but that... My brain hurts. Help. Ninja Steel and Super Ninja Steel.
I don't like it very much.
Kinda tedious, if I'm being honest. Almost every episode felt really inconsequential, and the lack of any kind of ongoing story arc was pretty disappointing. Not to mention the villains were unmemorable. And I'm sure the actors who played Victor and Monty are nice people, but their characters were annoying as hell. I wouldn't even call them store-brand Bulk and Skull. They were more like Temu Bulk and Skull. Honey, we have Bulk and Skull at home. You know, that sort of thing. Dimensions in Danger was fun, though. Great to see those past Rangers return. I love the idea of Tommy's Master Morpher. I like to think that all the other OG Rangers have their own Master Morphers, too. And Kelson Henderson's Mick was the best part of both seasons overall. There will be no Kelson Henderson or mechanic slander in this household. None. That man is a saint as far as I'm concerned. You know what? I'll even toss in my thoughts on the 2017 reboot movie that came out in between these. Saban's Power Rangers. I saw this when it came out in theaters, and originally I thought it was a decent flick. I know there are a lot of PR fans that hate this movie, and I get that, I do. Keep in mind, I haven't watched the movie since it came out, so I'll have to watch it again to see if my opinion still stands or if it changes at all. My opinion on the movie when I saw it stemmed mainly from comparing it to other big-budget movies based on nostalgic properties, specifically the majority of the Michael Bay Transformers movies and the 2 Ninja Turtle movies he produced. I thought it was better than all of those, simply for putting a large focus on character, that the 5 Rangers felt like 3-dimensional people. But I know the film was a huge failure for Saban. It lost them a lot of money, which resulted in them having to sell the franchise to, ironically enough, the makers of Transformers, Hasbro. Which brings us to Beast Morphers.
That was a bit rich, but okay.
The beginning of the Hasbro era, and I thought it was alright. Same goes for the second half of it, thankfully not crowbarring the word super into the title. I didn't mind the fan servicey stuff and callbacks. Grid Connection was a fun episode, and the way they connected this back to RPM was honestly genius. Also, forgive me for saying this, but is it just me, or does anyone else think Dr. K is hot now? You're right, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, I'm sorry. Okay, I think that's it, we're done! Thank God! Honestly, though, I am glad that I got to catch myself up on these because it gave me an even greater perspective on the show's history and how much it's changed, whether it be from owner to owner, showrunner to showrunner, and what have you. And each era has their own distinct feel to them and their own style, and each one has their own individual pros and cons. And coming out of this, I feel like I have an even greater respect for the show's history, and I'm glad that I do. I really am glad that I do. So with all that said, look forward to part 1 of my reactions to the history of Power Rangers Dino Fury, which is coming your way very, very soon. Out of all the seasons I covered here, which one was your favorite? Tell me in the comments down below, and as always, if you like what you saw here, then click that thumbs up button, as it helps me quite a bit. Share this with your friends, and if you haven't already, then please do subscribe, and click the notification bell so that you'll never miss out on anything new from yours truly. Oh, and one last thing. 2 years ago, my good friend Mike Decision launched a very successful Kickstarter campaign to fund a new short film called Millie's Carefree Day. After having played at many a film festival, and I think it even won a few awards too, Millie's Carefree Day is available to watch for free right now here on YouTube. It's a simple story that deals with a theme that I know a lot of us can relate to, especially right now, which is taking care of yourself, even in what feels like the worst of it all. Please do give it a watch. I can't recommend it enough. Visually, this might be the best looking thing Mike has ever done. The link to it will be in the description down below. Show Mike some support. I would really appreciate that. Whew, I really need to learn to, control the speeds of how I talk. I swear to God. Anyway, until next time, I'm Marc Aquino. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Did I say next time twice? I think I did. Damn. Whatever. I'm leaving this in. Bye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Marc Aquino YouTube channel.